Check 1, 2. Tansei, bonjour, anin, and welcome. We appreciate you being here today. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. My name is David McLeod. I'm the curator of the National Music Center Speak Up exhibition and chair of the NMC Indigenous Advisory Programming Committee. I'm also a member of the Pine Creek First Nation, located in northwestern Manitoba. It's my pleasure to welcome you here on behalf of the NMC staff, board, and management. The National Music Center is committed towards the cause of recognizing today, September 30th, as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a day designated to the remembrance and honoring of the children who never return home, and also the survivors of Canada's residential school system. Really briefly, there was a total of 130 residential schools operating in Canada between 1831 and the last school not closing its doors until 1996. At the height, there were 80 residential schools in full operation, and an estimated 150,000 children attended residential schools. On June 11th, the Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper, made a statement of an apology on behalf of the country. And in May of 2021, 215 children were found buried at the former Kamloops Residential School in BC. To date, there has now been almost 2,000 children found. Our focus here today is to open the discussion on the role music will change and inspire within these times we're in. Our elder, Eldon Weaselchild, sends his regrets that he could not be here today, but he wanted to thank you for taking the time to be here. We talked about this day serving as an opportunity for reflection, education, and respectfully, a time to share thoughts and to heal. He acknowledges that your being here is an important personal step towards reconciliation, and he wanted to thank the artists for being here as well. Fawn Wood, let's give it up for Fawn Wood. Eekwol, Lindsay Knight. And we'd also like to recognize Shane Ghostkeeper. Eldon gifted the National Music Center with the name Osotokino, which means to recognize the voice of. And the program has 3 facets within the National Music Center that connect to the Indigenous community, the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit community. So we'd like to thank Eldon for gifting us that name. And please give it up for Eldon, who couldn't be here, but we're thinking of him. I believe he's out in Oklahoma right now. Before we begin our discussions, Fawn Wood and her husband, Dallas Wiskahat, has offered to sing an opening prayer song in recognition of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So we're really happy they're here to share with us.
Tansei, kita tamskat na wow. The song I'm about to share with you guys was actually composed by my dad, Mr. Earl Wood. And this is a blessing song. And we'd like to dedicate this to all of our residential school survivors, all of the families of those affected, and anybody who may need a little bit of that uplifting energy today. Hi, hi.
You bet. Thank you, Dallas. Much appreciated. That was beautiful. And that's part of the reason we're here today, is to recognize the power in music in times that we're in, and particularly on this day for truth and reconciliation. We'd like to acknowledge that there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission report that was released in 2015, and there was 94 calls to action, with number 83 being addressing and revitalizing Indigenous languages, culture, storytelling, dance, and music as a way to promote identity and to also lead to healing. Fawn Wood, who we just heard with Dallas, she's Cree, Salish, and she's a recipient of the first JUNO Award for Traditional Indigenous Artist or Group of the Year in 2022. She's won numerous other awards, millions of views on social media, and respected throughout the community, and a mentor in how she shares language and music. Fawn, wanted to ask you, what does this day mean to you?
I think this day to myself, being a child of both my parents were actually residential school survivors, not only does today recognize a really hard part of Canada's history, but it's also a way that we could remember and honor all of our Nawagumaga and all of our relatives that have been affected by this. And to also remember the resiliency of our néhiyaw people, our Indigenous people, and where they are today, and how now, despite the circumstances, there is room for us to thrive, and we're still present, we're still here, our traditions are still here, our way of life is still here. We have a phrase in Cree that we say, néhiyaw, that Indigenous way of thought, and I truly believe that today recognizes the power of that and that resiliency.
Miigwech. Yes. Next is our guest from Saskatchewan. Thank you for making your way here. A néhiyaw rapper, educator, activist, known as Eekwol, and Lindsay Knight. She uses her voice for writing to amplify community realities, past and present. And she's also an academic. And would like to ask you, what does this day mean to you?
Thanks, David. It's really nice to be here present in this space, because this day to me has always been one that's really challenging, because it both makes me feel proud and good energy, but also really, really hard, sad energy. So I appreciate that song, because it really helped to sort of like move through that. As Fawn had said, I'm also néhiyaw, and néhiyaw, we have a strong belief in music and prayer and spiritual awareness. So we use that a lot today while we try to maneuver through this day. But I do want to say, it's really nice to see all of you here and doing something on this day, because it is very new, and every year it's going to grow, and I think it's a really good thing. When I was in the airport last night, I saw, orange shirts. I was in the States, and I saw orange shirts. And I saw orange shirts in the Edmonton airport. And when I see those shirts, I feel emotional, and in a good way, because I see that people are trying. They're trying to figure out, how do we maneuver past colonization, past the ongoing colonization? How do we change these structures? How do we think about how we can better our community and society? So that's what this day brings, is a lot of reflection and contemplation.
Thank you. Our third panelist is from Calgary, here in Calgary. He's a Métis singer, songwriter, actor, Shane Ghostkeeper. He's co-founder of the band Ghostkeeper, and they've been responsible for some of the most interesting experimental music in this city over the last, 15 years? And Shane, I'd like to ask you, what does this day mean to you?
Tansemias and Wabmtuga, It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, Truth and Reconciliation Day is, you know, an important fire, I suppose, that needs to be tended by everybody, including non-Indigenous people, and especially non-Indigenous people who are here on this land, because this is a very sacred, special fire that needs to remain strong and built upon, because we have a glimmer of hope happening here in terms of reconciling, and that starts with the truth. So let's keep this momentum going. And I'm so happy and proud that it's become a national day, so that it builds every year. Thank you all for participating.
But before we began, Shane and I were talking aside, and he brought up truth a few times, and it's like, it's the country's truth, it's your personal truth, and it's that truth that you can strive to move toward. And that's kind of part of this day, definitely part of this day. And Fawn, for you, I know you have a long history of being on the powwow trail with your family and connecting to traditional music. We heard that song at the beginning that you and Dallas sang together. How does music play a role in bringing about healing within the community?
I think music is a really strong testament, like I said, to the strength of our people. Specifically traditional music. At one time, I don't think a lot of people knew that it was illegal to practice our ways. That was a part of what followed with residential school and the impact of colonization. So to be able to express who we are as Indigenous people through art, through music, through dance, through anything like that, and the way we represent ourselves through music, I think it plays a huge part in being able to keep that strength that we had within our people. Healing is something that I do believe is ongoing. You know, whether you understand, that's a beautiful thing about music. It's very worldly. You don't even have to be Indigenous to feel that spirit of that music, and that's one thing our people really believe in, is that spirit of that music. And I think that spirit is what plays a huge part in healing, and to be able to sing freely now and share our songs in spaces like this, it's a beautiful thing to witness now, because it wasn't that long ago where we were unable to do that. So being able to express that and share songs that, you know, resonated on this land since our people were here, plays a huge part in that.
There's, you know, you brought up that history, and it's, you know, it's interesting how you could take performing music for granted. I mean, we had the Indian Act, which for about almost 70 years made performing songs illegal. You could be arrested for playing a hand drum. You needed permission from Indian agent to go out of the community to perform a song or gather. And then we had residential schools. Then there was the 60s scoop. And then, I mean, you put all the history together, and now the child and welfare system today. And a lot of it is pulling people away from music. At the end of the day, that's what's been happening. And I wanted to ask you, Eekwol, about that, because you've done a lot of research and history into that. What could you add about that history? Because music itself, it's a gift, and it was pursued at one time where Indigenous people could not perform music.
So true. And it's important for us too to be clear, like when we call ourselves Indigenous musicians, and the term, you know, Indigenous music is sometimes a genre in itself, but we're such versatile, there's such a variety of Indigenous music, and it's been going on since the beginning of time. So we have this long history, as Fawn had said, you know, very traditional, very much like on this land since the beginning of time we've had music. And the power of this music, it's so powerful. There used to be a song for everything. You know, we used to be able to sing. We used to have birth songs. We used to have death songs, all of these things. And when the colonizer came and saw the power of this music, that was when that happened when we had the Indian Act, and a lot of the music was silenced as a way to try to control our Indigenous nations. However, we kept going on how we say on the kimuch, which means on the sly. We still kept those songs alive because we had to, because we knew that was our spirit, that was our well-being. We needed this, and so to this day, you have our traditional song keepers like Fawn and like her family and like a lot of people that have these songs that have been here since the beginning of time. And then you have us as urban, I've always been an urban kid. I've been lucky to be around ceremony my whole life, but I also have been around hip hop and urban music. And so I relate to that, and my form of storytelling is hip hop. And so all of us come from these different identities and backgrounds, but a commonality that we have is that residential school history. My dad went to day school, my grandparents went to residential school. So a lot of that intergenerational impact comes out in our music, all the different types of musics that we have. It comes out because it's very real, it's who we are, it's the lived experience that we have every day. So I think what music really does is reminds us that we're still here, and that there's still a lot of work to be done. We're still suffering. We're thriving, but we're still in a lot of ways surviving. So our music, our job as our storytellers, and music keepers and song keepers is to do that, is to try to tell those stories and to keep music alive the way that Indigenous music always has.
Thank you for that. I had a conversation with Elder Robert Green in Winnipeg, respected elder, and I asked him, I said, what's the history of music within the community? And he said, where he first heard about music was in creation stories. So he was alluding to that music is an energy, and that energy existed pre-human. And that was very powerful as a teaching to learn where music comes from and what it is. And as we find, scientists are finding learning about the vibrations and what makes up matter. And there's truth to his teaching. Shane, your latest album is dedicated to your community, the Métis community in northern Alberta here. And I know that part of what drives you is a connection to the land as well. So could you share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I often write about my home and how fortunate I am to have been kind of isolated from the cities and the immense desecration, I suppose, from capitalism and colonialism in regards to specifically the land. So I've always had a special bond with the land, which left me feeling without need, in particular religion, institutional evaluations, that sort of thing. And I'm always trying to portray and let people know, that non-Indigenous people know, that the land is sacred. And with Truth and Reconciliation Day, I hope that a lot of the non-Indigenous people here on this land can start to have respect for the land and realize that it's sacred. And we'll continue to pursue that in my lyrics. And then also, this record is always about, showing how romantic that I feel about my childhood and my modern Cree Métis culture and my family, and the strength and the bonds and the love that we have, and all of our fun stories that I was surrounded by. And I think that's also important too, that people see the humanity in the Indigenous people here on a level where they can relate. And that's why music is so special, because it's a welcoming portal that everybody can understand. It's the universal language. And we all welcome everyone to connect with us on a deeper level that connects us as human beings.
Thanks for that. On this day of for Truth and Reconciliation, when it comes to just an open question, when it comes to writing songs or presenting songs and music, how do you approach the topic creatively when you're using that as the inspiration to write a song? That history of residential school and that's been faced and those traumas that still exist to this day.
I think when it comes to creating music, we take a lot of our own experience, and like my fellow panelists had mentioned before, we all have our own story to tell, our own worldview, our own perspective as Indigenous people. No matter what art form or what genre we have, I think it's really important to keep that voice of where we come from and our people very present, very relevant. I always like to acknowledge, all Indigenous artists, past, present, and future, because it didn't matter what genre they played or what way they chose to express themselves. They were able to keep our voices going, our stories going, and all of the people doing the work today, we do that, and we express ourselves, and we take up spaces now so that future generations can know that we're here too, can hear our stories, and they can in one way or another relate to what we go through and what we've been through and our triumphs and our tribulations. And I think when it comes to creating music for myself, I really like to have my own history present in that, and I want other people to feel that and feel inspired by that.
Eekwol, you've written songs that reference residential school and also murdered and missing women and girls across the country as well. And how do you approach that as an artist?
I start by a really good smudge. I always I do use ceremony when I'm writing, because a lot of times I find, and this might sound cliche for songwriters, but sometimes I feel like those lyrics come from somewhere else, and I feel like, how did I write that? Like, where did that come from? I really believe sometimes I'm a conduit for some of these stories for our ancestors. But it's really hard. It's really hard. Sometimes I'll be writing and I'll just be like, just crying, like it's just coming out, and I know it's going to be a powerful song, powerful story, but it's really hard. And when I started doing hip hop, like I was in the era where, in the 90s when I was a teenager, and I didn't know about residential schools, because in the 90s, some of us might remember, So I discovered, our hip hop discovered me, and I used to try to be like Tupac. I used to try to be like all those rappers that I saw on MTV, and because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't like being Indigenous because it was embarrassing, to be called out at school all the time, to be called down, and because of my fair skin, I would do everything to hide my indigeneity. And so when, my dad, who's obviously Indigenous, we always had this sort of way of, working through life to try to, just get by. And I always thought to be Indigenous meant to be genetically inferior, because nobody told me different. And all I saw in my family was struggle, addictions, all of that. And then I went to first year university, and I was taught about colonization, and I was taught about residential schools, and my mind was blown, because I thought, holy cow, this is why we are the way we are. Why didn't nobody tell me this until I was 18 years old? And I went home and I'm like, Dad, do you know about this stuff? And he's like, yeah, I went to day school. I'm like, Cho, you never told me that. Like my whole life, I didn't know he went to day school. I didn't know my grandparents went to residential school, but I sure knew the effects of all that. So when I found that out, then my songs became all about. I was so angry about that history. I wrote a lot of real revolutionary, like rah, rah, rah kind of stuff. And then I had kids. And then I started thinking, I can be angry, and I am angry. I can have rage, and I can rah, rah, rah the system. But now I have these kids. I got to teach them how to walk in this world in a good way and to be proud of who they are. So I got to be a role model. So then my music became more of a awareness type of music that invited everybody to listen, to try not to be defensive, and to just listen, to open up and listen to these stories of our missing and murdered women and sisters, Indigenous girls, to our residential school history, all of that. So now I'm in this place as a parent, and I see all these young ones here, and I think this is our opportunity to teach these young ones. They already probably know more than I did when I was 18. Thank goodness the schools are teaching a lot more, but man. So now that's, you know, how I write my music, in that good way, trying to think about these kids and how they can live a better life than I did. Oh, that was a long response.
It was a very good response, so thank you. I'm getting the signal that we have a performance right now. We've asked all three of our panelists to perform a song to recognize the day today. And first we have Eekwol, which makes sense.
I'll just keep going.
So let's hear how she takes those thoughts, those ideas, those influences, those life experiences, and creates a song. If you could just tell us the title of this song and a little bit about it before
Definitely.
you go. Thank you.
So this song is actually called Beauty, and we think about beauty as being obviously more than just the surface, but it's the beauty of our cultures, our languages, our histories. All of us here come from really strong, powerful histories, and if you don't know much about it, learn about your history, because there's some pretty cool stuff. And so Beauty is one of my good music partners, both of them, is Isla Barker sings in it, and Boogie the Beat created the beat for this song. You can play it.
Beauty in everything you do, beautiful action, beautiful truth, action, beautiful truth, action, truth. Be beauty in everything you do, beautiful action, beautiful truth, beautiful truth.
Bright enough to take away the night and still leave room for the morning light. Let me make this clear, it's not about who gets the most shine. It's more like truth, honesty, and speaking your mind. Yeah, we are 100 things rolled into one. Carry babies on our backs or carry a gun. Soil in the concrete, tech in the teachings. Our energy pushes power into the air we're breathing. You Saint Laurent or tactical gear, bikini or a jingle dress, we are still here. We own our bodies, every tiny detail, so we control what we want to find as female. People gonna talk, cause people like to talk. Scared to set out and walk their own walks. Forget enemies, keep your relatives close and seek them out in the smoke when it hurts the most. Cause none of these trails are easy roads, and every single one of us is carrying a load. And I feel sometimes I wanna let go, but I can't, cause those little ones are watching so close. Studying the intricate details of the actions, words wrapped around empathy and compassion. They embody the ways we grace the ground. Heads up, walking proud, and the skin so brown. Being, just being, living in a dream, knowing that there's more to life than just being seen. And the more that shine, the brighter the earth. Powered by design, magic since birth. Collective patterns moving, forming butterfly migrations. Delicate balance, discipline, devout determination. Bring up the levels, pedal to the metal, let us both dry till things get better and blast ours through the best. Stay on task and act to the fact that they always got your back. They always got your back. Naskaman.
Wonderful. There's almost like a book of material in that one song. You covered a lot. You covered a lot in that song. Just an open question: when anybody's performed here, have you witnessed or had an experience where you've seen reconciliation take place to some degree when you've performed somewhere? Where maybe it's a non-Indigenous person coming up to you and sharing a story or thought with you about your music? Just an open.
I think I've experienced that more than a few times where, I think it's a beautiful thing, especially, it doesn't matter if you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, but when you connect to that music and you feel something, you may not even necessarily know the story behind that or the language that's being spoken. But I think that's the beautiful thing about music, is that music is something that everybody can connect with. That's a tool that everybody can express themselves with. And that's probably one of the most beautiful things I've experienced when I've had peoples of all different walks of life come up and say that they enjoyed that and ask questions. And just to acknowledge that and acknowledge the music that I put out is something that I feel really blessed to have experienced.
Fawn, I wanted to ask you about your social media. We have to talk a little bit about that. If you could talk about the reach that you have and what you believe that is doing within the community and beyond.
I've been pretty, I guess, blessed in that aspect. With the day and age that we live in now, it makes a lot of what we do, whether it's music or anything, it makes it a lot more accessible to people. And when things are more accessible like that, so is information. So is being able to share more information about what it is that we do, what it is that we've been through. I get asked a lot, even on social media, about ribbon dresses and the way I present myself, or the language that I speak, or where I come from, or even protocols. And I'm really open to sharing with anybody who wants to know that knowledge, who wants to ask those questions, because I think that plays a huge part in that reconciliation, is to be able to understand where each and every single one of us come from. And I'm always open to sharing more about our culture and traditions and things that I know and my point of view and my perspective. And I think with social media now, you can go on things like TikTok, or you can go on Instagram, and you could see our culture being displayed and reaching audiences far beyond our own communities or even our own country and territories. And that is a really awesome thing to witness in this day and age. And it goes to show that, this is kind of like our lifeline to keep who we are alive and to keep our own identity alive and showing people who we are. And I think that's a really awesome way and thing to witness when it comes to social media.
Eekwol, do you have anything to add to that? Because you certainly have a large reach, and I really admire the academic background you have in writing about the history of Indigenous hip-hop as well. Has been a passion for you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I love research. I'm a total geek. Well, what I'd like to add to that too is, though, everybody who's here, if you're interested in our music, if you look up Fawn Wood, Eekwol, Shane Ghostkeeper, we have our, our Instagram, our Facebook. I'm speaking for you, but I'm assuming you do. And also Spotify, Apple, there's a ton of Indigenous playlists that we're on. And yeah, there's a lot of ways you can listen to the music. You can learn more about us and artists that are similar to us. And you can just build your Indigenous music web, Reclaim CBC, I'll shout that out.
Shane, in terms of the mainstream looking at Indigenous artists and music, there's still work to be done in that relationship there that we were talking a little bit about that. Can you share about that a bit?
Yeah, and also at the same time to answer that, and to add to Fawn's recognition of I guess, accessibility to information. I find myself in that same plight right now, because although I felt really lucky that I did not, I get tied into religion, which is, I think, a very huge foothold of oppression that still exists today as a colonial system oppressing Indigenous people, because it's pretty much shattered an entire few generations of a beautiful spirituality and connection to this land. So I'm really also educating myself on those ancient practices and ideas and ceremonies that I feel my body is craving and my spirit is craving. So it is, I guess, sort of an exciting time with information, because I'm needing that education as well as the mainstream people have that access, and it just kind of makes it feel like we're in this journey together.
You know, a friend of mine, she shared a story with me. She was with a colleague, and she was telling us a happy story about being at a community event, and the man she was talking to went, I didn't know there was happy stories in the Indigenous community. Because all he knows is from the media, which covers a lot of the negativity or a lot of the hardships. But, you know, she mentioned to me that that's something that people need to know about, is that resilience and that love, that empowerment, and the beautiful culture that is emerging from what was tried to be taken away. Anybody want to share anything in that area, just in terms of where the Indigenous community is at right now?
I think, you know, since this is like the 10th, I believe they said it's the 10th anniversary of Orange Shirt Day, and it really kind of picked up after that initial find of 215. And because of that, because we had so much attention with that, a lot of people from outside our communities are like, oh, this happened. You know, a lot of people didn't even believe that we had real Indigenous people that still lived here, you know. As far-fetched as it sounds, I even remember going to school and people still thinking that we lived in teepees or lived outside and on the land. But, you know, our people, where we are now, I think now that we're able to address all of this truth and this history about our people, we're also able to share all of the positive things about that. We're able to share the beautiful things that our people and our culture have contributed to our people and to other people and to the world. And I think that's a really powerful thing to remember, is that there's a lot of beautiful, what we call beimatsun in our communities, a lot of beautiful life, a lot of beautiful things that came out of that. You know, to be able to hear our little ones learning and speaking our languages or singing our songs or being able to dance and dress up and be proud of who they are, you know, that's one positive thing where our communities are now. There's a huge surge in our young people nowadays. If you look back even 10 years, a lot of them weren't proud of where they came from. They didn't express where they come from. And now openly you see our young people picking up maybe where our past generations were lacking when it comes to identity and celebrating ourselves. And that's a really beautiful thing to see, is that our leaders really do come from our youth, and the way that they're kind of leading the way in reclaiming our identity and reclaiming the language and reclaiming all of the things that we may have lost over the past years. That's a powerful statement to where our communities are today, and where we are taking that initiative to heal from that history.
Thank you. Well said. Shane, we're going to ask you to perform a song for us, but Shane Ghostkeeper, what can you tell us about your last name? A lot of people get curious about that.
Yeah, I get this asked a lot, and I don't always have or get even a clear answer from my family, but the popular stories is that, well, because there's and something I've always been so proud and blessed about has been my name since childhood, even though I faced a lot of racism from my name, a lot of ridicule, hatred, and even having to rent a hotel room while being on tour has been very difficult, because they look at my ID and say, see Ghostkeeper, and they immediately look at me and they say, is this fake? And then I need my Caucasian bandmates to come and vouch for me. However, that the name gives me so much strength that I've always been able to, just like give that type of people a smile and a laughter, because it's so ridiculous. That mentality. It kind of blows me away in a funny way. It's like, wow, I just have to laugh. And because the name gives me strength. And it's because it's a loose English translation for medicine man. And I've been blessed to have that as a part of my life since childhood. And I wanted to add to your saying, do Indigenous people have any good stories? Well, for me, being blessed with ceremony at a young age, what I learned is that laughter is at the core of every ceremony. I've never gone to a ceremony without everyone laughing. And that's a huge difference between this, institutional religion that is offered on the other hand. So, does that answer the question?
All right, well, I think it's time to hear some Shane Ghostkeeper.
Thank you. So this song is called The Trees. It was on the last Ghostkeeper record. It's very special to me because it was like, it was my response to the beginning of Truth and Reconciliation. In particular, the denialism, I suppose, which hit me very hard. And it was like another completely ridiculous form of racism. People thinking that, why should we recognize the truth and the treatments of residential school and the atrocities that exist, in the history, which is blows my mind. But I feel like just being here today, it creates some kind of hope. And this song is about even feeling like needing to run away to my power spot, my connection to the land back home up in northern Alberta. So it just kind of documents that. So and we're really needing as many allies, many non-Indigenous allies as we can to squash this whole denial movement that is seemingly stubborn. And forgive me because I'm really nervous right now. I don't normally get nervous like this, but it's so emotional, so much emotion going around today. Thank you.
So you're not the type to blame all your misery on immigrants and folks of different religions. Also you're not the type to feel so sorry for yourself from all this truth and reconciliation. To bear witness to it all breaks your heart. Now you wanna see something beautiful. You wanna see something pretty smart. While you drive north on that 35, float? Well, okay, then you catch the mighty Peace River. And you don't stop till you get to the land that they all call God's country. Why? Well, if you don't close your eyes I just know you will see the trees, yes, the trees swaying hooey, like Christians hooey, in their pews. Oh, only they're worshiping the sun. Why? Well, it must be because that Creator shines on everything. Yeah, that Creator shines for everyone. Yeah, that Creator shines on everything. Yeah, that Creator shines for everyone.
Shane Ghostkeeper.
Thank you.
We're getting closer to rounding about our time here, but just going to give you a moment to think if you have any questions. We are here to recognize the Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and we certainly want your voices to be included as well. So if you think of a question, we're going to get to that as well. Wanted to ask our panelists, in terms of music, what would you recommend or advice you'd give to a young person who wants to pursue music and wants to get those messages in those songs? Like Shane, that song you just sang, it had so much meaning to it, yet it was quirky, yet it was fun, yet and so meaningful. You know, how do you get to that place if a young person's watching you going, I want to do what Shane's doing?
Yeah, I suppose, well, my particular approach, if anyone young is interested in how I, you know, or what my artistic conceptual mantra has always been as a responsibility. I've taken my pursuit of songwriting as a responsibility, you know, for truth and not only to myself, you know, to address the truths of my own particular traumas and processing the world, I suppose. Yeah, to take it as a responsibility to yourself, not just to your people, but also to the evolution of humanity. You know.
Thank you for that, Eekwol.
Yeah, well, I always think, you know, music, or the creativity that we all have, a lot of times it gets suppressed in our society. Doesn't matter who we are, but especially, you know, we're taught that, you know, creativity is sort of on the side. Music's sort of like, it's over there. Art, you know, all of this creative work and creatives like us. But in fact, we're all creatives. And so when we have young people that are interested in music and that are interested in like pushing forward with music, I always say to whoever their caregivers are to really encourage it. And I'm so grateful that I grew up in a musical family, so it's kind of easier for me, but my parents were just like, go for it. Me and my brother, go for it. Go ahead. Go do this music. Try to make it a career. We support you. So it was always easy for us in that way. But the one thing that I learned is with rap hip hop, if you don't come at it from a very original place, from who you are as a, you know, I identify as a woman, I identify as Indigenous, I identify as settler, my mom is Russian. I identify from coming from Treaty 6 territory, from the prairies. I identify with the way my accent is. I've got to use all those things and put it in my music because nobody else is me. And if my lyrics don't sound like me, if they try to sound like, I don't know, like who's a rapper, if I try to sound like Juice WRLD, people are probably going to just listen to Juice WRLD, right? They're not going to listen to me. So I got to try to sound like nobody else. So if you're trying to pursue music, you got to come at it from an original place, not just because you're a fan of somebody. You got to be a fan of yourself. Huh? I just made that up now. But for real.
Yeah, be a fan of yourself. Awesome. Fawn, what are your thoughts on that? On youth pursuing that perhaps traditional music and doing it in the right way that does assist with this process of reconciliation.
I can really agree with Eekwol when she talks about originality. Especially when it comes to traditional music, it's really important to stay true to who you are, where your roots are from. Also myself being a squaw, a woman, an Indigenous woman who has a story to tell, who has these experiences when it comes to, being able to go to ceremony or celebrations, or when it came to wanting to create my music and the story I wanted to share, I wanted to give a voice to Indigenous women. I wanted to tell music from our point of view. You didn't hear too much of that, especially in this genre. And if I was to say one thing to the youth, not just as Indigenous people, but as human beings, we all have that right to express ourselves. We all have that right to our own culture, to our own language, and to be able to live our life through expression and live it in a good way. So I always say, it's really important to stay true to yourself. Stay true to the stories you want to share. Stay true to the music and the message that you want to reach and reach out to people. And that was one thing that was really important for me to find. I was really fortunate that I had two parents that kept us connected to our cultural ways of life, to our traditional ways of life, and that played a huge part in me, especially knowing that they weren't always able to practice that. And I wanted to make sure that because I wanted to do it to the best of my ability and in the best way that I knew how. I wanted to, if I had anything to say to our young ones who want to share music like that, is really stay true to yourself and remember that strength that we all have in ourselves.
Awesome. That's great, beautiful words. We've got a microphone ready to go. Yep, Daniel's grabbing a microphone. Give it up for Daniel grabbing a microphone. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to open it up. If anybody has any questions at all. We've got somebody waving right here. Okay, we got a microphone coming your way, sir. Here we go.
That's it. Hello, Fonzie.
It's her uncle. We better be good.
Fawn's dad and my dad are brothers, but in the Indian way. And I've known Fonzie since she was a little girl. When this Truth and Reconciliation came up, I always talked to my buddies like I talked to her dad, and I have other buddies that went to residential school. I'm a residential school survivor. We really don't want to talk about it. It's like if you're in an abusive relationship, oh yeah, my man used to beat me up. How many times you want to talk about stuff like that? Or you don't want to bring that up. So for a lot of us survivors, it's pretty hard. And then you got the Bones of Crows and Blue Little Bird and all those movies. They come up and, yeah, I'll watch it. Or American Indian Horse. And it just, I wish I didn't see that. As it's shooken up. But I think I speak for my ideas on this day that our people, our Indian people, it's almost like they jump on the bandwagon for this. I'm sure their hearts are in a good place, but there's a thing is intuitive spirituality, where our minds, our way we think has become, in a colonial sense, when somebody talks to us, we have to put it into something that we can relate to. But in our Indian way, we just listen. We don't have to have an answer. So that intuitive spirituality is our connection with the animals and the trees and the water. I always say I have 4 adopted sons, and that's how I teach them. We go to the bush and we go to the river. We get rocks and we make wood and we put on ceremony. And they learn more just through the working than through the songs. Well, I teach them the songs too. And my boys are not even Indigenous. They got a black and a brown and a white son. But you put them around the drum, you couldn't even tell they were... They're just like, all the native guys go, holy cow, who's this? And I point to the black guy. He takes the lead. It's all cool. But I always say our way isn't so much about First Nations way. It's about the earth, our connection. And the songs, it's the frequency that we sing that has the healing power. So we try to sing our songs on that right frequency so our people can heal. I know that our people are beautiful. I see that with my niece, my son, my daughter. And there was a time when it wasn't good to be Indian. Going to school here in Calgary, and then after 72, when they took over Wounded Knee, our people started to be proud. They started to wear headbands and beadwork and braids. And then it started getting more and more and more. And then the Sundance came back. I practice ceremony. But I think our people really need to get back into the intuitive spirituality instead of thinking like colonial. Even at work, they had a presentation for Truth and Reconciliation. And it was hard. But I'm here today because this is a cool venue and I think it's nice to be here. And I wanted to see Fawn. But like I said, I'm really proud of Fawn and our Fonzie. So yeah, our people are very beautiful when we're at our finest.
Thank you very much. Miigwech, give him a round of applause. Some words that needed to be heard for sure. Any other questions? Oh, we got one up there.
I was just curious if through social media, do you get exposure to other countries, like people from other countries appreciating your music? Because I find when I travel overseas, I come back with a new appreciation for Canada and all the people that make up Canada. So sometimes when you're meeting other cultures, they sometimes appreciate what you have more than what you yourself know in Canada. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so she was talking about that, how you're reaching other countries.
I think, again, that's the beautiful thing about being able to share our culture and our beliefs, because as unique as we are, there's certain principles and certain things that are very similar to other cultures in this world when it comes to spirituality and respect and certain teachings like that. And I think that's something that I enjoy, being able to connect with other people. And it's pretty surprising because, I'm just a girl from Saddle Lake, my little reservation, and being able to share what I know, but being able to also exchange different information and cultural knowledge with other people has been really surprising.
Awesome. Eekwol?
Yeah, it's kind of cool because like with Spotify, and you can sort of see your reach and see who's been listening, every month, and sort of check how all your stats. And it's funny because a few years ago I had some interest in Japan, and it kind of blew up in Japan, like a lot of my music, and I had a lot of messages from people. So yeah, it's just kind of weird, and that's the thing about how it's so much easier to get across, all over the world, transnationally, and have people appreciate your music. It's really like, wow, it's really inspiring. And I do the same. I make an effort to, learn music. Some of my favorite rappers don't rap a word in English, but I love the spirit of the way that they're relaying it. So yeah.
Shane, do you want to share anything about that, like social media and the reach of your music to those fans out there?
Right. Well, in my particular case, I was dragged kicking and screaming to participate in social media. So mostly my partner, Sarah, handles all that. However, I do use it now to appreciate and enjoy other cultures. Right now, I'm really into Northwest African music, and it's gorgeous and beautiful, and I continue my search into India and the tribal music there. And yeah, that's definitely a positive platform for truth and reconciliation, for sure.
Thank you. We're almost out of time. We'll take probably maybe one or two questions. We have a lady in the middle there.
Hi, Shane. I came because I love your music. I listen to you on CKUA, and I just want to know, for all three of you, are you performing anywhere in Calgary this weekend that we could see more than just that little tiny snippet?
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm not. I'm playing in Lethbridge tonight. It's only 2 hours away, right? If you keep pace from the Deerfoot on, you're driving 140, 150, so be there in an hour and a half.
Well, there we go. That's a good question, though, and that's the other thing about non-Indigenous people going out to Indigenous events. I'm seeing that more and more. I'm based out of Winnipeg, and it's interesting to see newcomers going to Indigenous shows, which is on the rise. So there'll be people from different countries checking out the Indigenous music scene. So it's great to see that relationship being developed right now as well. And Shane, like you, I can hear some different rhythms in your music too, so I'm kind of getting it too. It's like, yeah, I appreciate how you do that with your music. I think, how are we doing for time?
One more question?
Okay. Yes. One last question. Do we have one last question out there? Okay. And then we are going to hear some Fawn Wood.
Hi, my question is for Shane. He said earlier that we should respect our land. My question is, how exactly do you respect your land? What you have to do in order to respect it?
You mean as a non-Indigenous person? Well, what Truth and Reconciliation is about as a fundamental prayer, I suppose, is recognition to the truth. Recognizing that, excessive logging is not good. Excessive logging is hard. Oil sands mining, and I know those are all like tricky issues because Indigenous people are starting to build some wealth from oil and gas as well, especially up in the northern communities like where I'm from. But it's just to have the ability to be honest with yourself. It's like we're all caught up in this capitalist construct that we have to survive on. However, if you can hold in your heart and in your mind that constant recognition that this is a desecration to holy land, then maybe things will progress in a positive way and we can evolve in a positive way.
Awesome. Give it up for that. Give it up for Shane. We had a request for some Fawn Wood, and we have Fawn Wood that's going to perform for us. We're just rounding out our gathering here today. I've been asked to share if anybody's been triggered with unpleasant feelings or from residential school experiences or having some difficult thoughts. There's a 24-hour residential school crisis line at 1-866-925-4419. 1-866-925-4419. And a quick reminder today that admission's free, so we encourage everybody to check out all of the exhibitions, including the Speak Up exhibition. This year we added Fawn Wood to our exhibition. Tom Jackson, Alyssa P. Alyssa P had the #1 selling album in Canada this week. Incredible. Farron Andreeses. Once again, I'm Dave McLeod, and it's been an honor to take part and be here today. Before Fawn sings us out with a song, we'd like to give it up for Shane one more time. Shane Ghostkeeper. Let's give it up for Eekwol. Great words. Thank you so much for being here. And we're gonna close out with Fawn Wood, the incredibly talented Fawn Wood.
Again, I just want to say thank you all for coming out today. A little bit about the song I'm going to share. It's sung in our what we call BTT-win or BT Simuwin, our round dance style. And if you haven't heard that style before or heard about the round dance, for my tribe, this is a way that we call our loved ones down to come and sing and dance with us. We typically do this around this time of year, the fall and winter time. This song was actually composed by my Uncle Randy. He had gifted it to me. And I want to dedicate this in memory of all of our residential school survivors, all of our Indigenous people who may have been affected by this, and especially all of those little ones that never got to make it home. I do believe now the number is over 10,000, and there's still many more searches to go on. So I hope you guys enjoy this song. This is Remember Me. Hey, oh, hey. Remember me when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey. Remember me when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hi, oh, hey, oh, hey, hi, oh, hey. Remember me when the sun comes up in the morning. there I will be. Soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hi-yo, hey-yo. Hi,
Ooh. Fawn Wood. Thank you so much, Fawn. Thank you, everybody. Let's give it up for the sound crew, the lighting crew. Let's give it up for all the staff who worked really hard to pull all this together. And let's give you a round of applause for just being here. Thank you so much. And we wish you a great day, and please take some time to see all the exhibitions. Chi miigwech.